Have you ever dreamed of being in a place where legends breathe through stone walls and every turn leads to a new era? England is a country where medieval castles rise above verdant hills and futuristic bridges connect the shores of time. Here you can walk down the very street that inspired Diagon Alley, peer into the tower where the king languished, and cross the prime meridian in a single step. From the Gothic cathedrals to the biodomes of Eden, from the chime of Big Ben to the whisper of the New Forest, every day in England becomes a personal discovery. It's not just geography. It's a journey through history, architecture, science, and imagination. We've gathered for you 60 wonders of England that conquer not only the camera lens, but also the heart. Prepare to be amazed, because the most incredible stories, they actually happen right here. Stonehenge is one of the world's most enigmatic monuments, surrounded by the mysteries, myths, and mists of the English landscape. Huge megaliths form a circle, supposedly used for rituals, astronomical observations, or burials. Scientists still argue how and why it was built, because the stones weighing dozens of tons were delivered hundreds of kilometers away. At the dawn of the solstice, the rays line up perfectly through the main passage between the stones. Stonehenge's surroundings are filled with a special atmosphere, silence, wind, and a sense of ancient presence. The site has become a symbol not only of archaeology, but also of spiritual exploration, with neo-pagans and the curious coming here from all over the world. Stonehenge is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most photographed sites in England. Even when you first meet it, it feels familiar, like part of the collective memory of mankind. The Tower of London is more than a fortress. It is a living chronicle of the English monarchy. Built in the 11th century by William the Conqueror, it has served as a prison, palace, zoo, and even a mint. The royal jewels are kept here, and the gleaming imperial scepter awes thousands of visitors daily. Anne Boleyn and other figures of history were executed behind its walls, and many believe their ghosts still roam the corridors. The White Tower, the heart of the complex, rises as the seat of power and fear. The Black Ravens, according to legend, protect the British Empire and are watched over by special servants. In the tower, time seems to condense. The walls seem to hear the footsteps of kings, prisoners, and executioners. It is a place where cruelty, splendor, and unforgiving history come together. Westminster Abbey is the spiritual center of England and the scene for the coronations, weddings, and funerals of kings. Since the coronation of William the Conqueror, almost all British monarchs have been enthroned here. The Gothic architecture is striking in its grandeur, with vaults reaching upwards and stained glass windows shimmering in the London sunshine. The Abbey is home to such cultural giants as Isaac Newton, Charles Darwin, and Chaucer. Poets' Corner is a special place for those who change the world with words. There is a solemn silence here, pierced by the breath of history. During royal ceremonies, the building is filled with the majestic sound of organ and choirs. It is not just a temple, it is an altar of English identity. Buckingham Palace is the official London residence of the monarch and a symbol of British royalty. It was built in 1703 and became a palace only in the 19th century. Crowds of tourists gather in front of it every day to see the changing of the guard, a ceremony full of austerity and splendor. The facade of the palace is strictly symmetrical, and inside there are more than 750 rooms, including the throne room and the personal apartments of the monarch. The famous Buckingham balcony is the place from where the royal family greets the people at solemn moments. During anniversaries and weddings, the square in front of the palace turns into a living ocean of flags and emotions. The courtyard is where parades take place, and the gardens are the place of private receptions and royal tea parties. This is where celebration meets everyday life in one of the world's oldest monarchies. York Cathedral is one of the most majestic Gothic cathedrals in Northern Europe. It towers over the ancient city of York like a guardian of time and faith. Its 13th century stained glass windows are true masterpieces of glass art, especially the famous Five Sisters window. The light-filled nave of the cathedral fills the space with spiritual solemnity. The construction lasted more than 250 years, and every stone is imbued with the efforts of generations. Even today, worship services, organ concerts, and solemn services are held here. The dungeons contain the ruins of a Roman camp. The history of York begins long before Christianity. The cathedral is like a bridge between eras, from the legionaries to the Gothic heights. Hadrian's Wall is one of the greatest Roman engineering structures covering the north of England from sea to sea. Built by order of Emperor Hadrian in 122 AD, it served as the Roman Empire's defensive line. Stone blocks stretch across hills and valleys, recalling the border between civilization and the barbarian world. Many sections of it have survived in remarkable integrity, especially in the Northumberland area. Forts, watchtowers, and museum centers with artifacts can be found along the route of the wall. The walking route along the wall is popular with tourists and historians. Hadrian's Wall is a symbol of boundaries, strength, and ancient order. Today, it inspires with both its ancient austerity and its rugged beauty. Hampton Court is a royal palace on the banks of the Thames, inextricably linked to the Tudor period. Henry VIII feasted here, married and hunted in the lush gardens. The palace combines Gothic grandeur and Baroque elegance, two architectural worlds in one ensemble. Inside, there are grand halls with tapestries, kitchen facilities capable of feeding hundreds of courtiers, and a labyrinth that has become a legend in its own right. The ghosts of royal wives are rumored to still appear in the long corridors. The park with its geometric flower beds and fountains is an example of English garden art. In summer, it hosts historical festivals with reenactments of Henry's era. Hampton Court is not just a palace, but a theater of the monarchy, where each stage plays its role to this day. Glastonbury Tor is a legendary hill in Somerset, topped by the lonely Tower of St. Michael. It is associated with the myths of King Arthur, the Isle of Avalon, and Druidic rituals. The hill rises above the plain like a beacon of the past, visible tens of kilometers away. Many believe it to be an ancient energy center and a crossing point of ley lines. Climbing to the top is not just a walk, but almost a pilgrimage. On clear days, there are breathtaking panoramic views of rural England from here. Local festivals and celebrations often include Tor in their itineraries. It's as if it unites history, nature, and myth. Standing at the foot of the tower, it's impossible not to feel the breath of antiquity and magic. The city of Bath is a jewel of English architecture, founded on the site of Roman Thermae. Its Georgian buildings of light-colored limestone give the city a warm, honeyed glow. Here you can take a dip in the authentic hot springs at the Thermae Bath Spa Complex. The Roman baths are a well-preserved archaeological site with a museum where antiquity comes alive. Royal Crescent Boulevard is one of the country's most recognizable architectural ensembles. The city was the inspiration for Jane Austen and has a museum dedicated to her. Bath is surrounded by rolling green hills and scenic walking roads. It is a city where antiquity meets English classicism and history flows like warm water. Oxford is not just a university, but an entire city living in the rhythm of libraries, lectures, and traditions. Its colleges are scattered around the city, each with its own history, architecture, and courtyard. The Bodleian Library is one of the oldest in Europe, and its vaults stretch beneath the city streets. Oxford's towers and spires inspired Tolkien and Lewis, and Harry Potter scenes were filmed in these very halls. A stroll along the Thames or through the Botanic Gardens feels like a respite between eras. Colleges like Christ Church or Magdalen College are architectural gems that are sought after by tourists from all over the world. Traditions like the wearing of robes and Latin at ceremonies make the atmosphere truly unique. Oxford is a city where the walls know more than the textbooks. Cambridge is enchanting at first sight. Green lawns, ancient bridges, and college facades reflecting in the River Cam. Its university was founded in 1209 and has been the cradle of many scientific discoveries. It was here that Isaac Newton studied and discovered his laws of motion. The stone buildings of colleges such as King's College look like medieval castles with organ music inside. A pole boat ride, punting, is one of the favorite activities of students and tourists. The Bridge of Sighs and the Math Bridge are architectural mysteries steeped in local lore. The campuses are buried in greenery, and the courtyards are filled with the whisper of knowledge and the laughter of students. Cambridge is both rigorous tradition and freedom of thought. Kensington Palace is not only the residence of the princes, but also a living museum of the British monarchy. Queen Victoria was born here, and Prince William and Harry spent their childhood years here. The interiors preserve the atmosphere of the 16th and 8th century. Carved staircases, gilded halls, portraits in heavy frames. Exhibitions are devoted to royal fashion and the life of women at court. The palace is surrounded by picturesque Kensington Park, with alleys, ponds, and gardens. Diana's Alley and the Princess Monument are a quiet place of remembrance and peace. Modern family members use part of the palace as a personal residence. It is a place where the royal story continues, not in museums, but in real time. Windsor Castle is a living fortress where traditions are not just preserved, but continue to evolve. Built in the 11th century, it has become a symbol of the stability of the English crown. Its majestic towers can be seen from afar, and especially the round tower rising above the green terraces. The castle is the Queen's official weekend residence, which means it is not a museum, but a functioning part of the monarchy. Inside are relics, armor, tapestries, and art collections. St. George's Chapel hosts royal weddings and funerals, including the funeral of Prince Philip. Every day there is a changing of the guard, no less impressive than Buckingham Palace. Windsor combines scale, comfort, and uninterrupted history. Greenwich Observatory is the place where the world's time begins. It is here that the famous zero meridian passes, which you can literally step over with your foot. Founded in the 17th century, the observatory has become a symbol of scientific precision in space navigation. The museum displays telescopes, astrolabes, marine chronometers, and maps that change the course of history. Here you can also see the sphere of time, a metal ball that drops every day at exactly 13 euros. The hill offers stunning views of the River Thames and the city. This is the place where science, history, and panoramas meet at one point. Greenwich is not just a place on the map, but the starting point of an entire civilization. The London Eye is not just a Ferris wheel, but a symbol of the New London. With its height of 135 meters, it has long been the largest in the world. The glass and metal capsules rotate so slowly that even a person with a fear of heights feels confident. From the top, there's a circular view of the whole city. Big Ben, Westminster, the river, spires, and bridges. The wheel was built for millennials and was meant to be temporary, but has become part of the cityscape. At night, it is illuminated with colors depending on the holiday or event. Each capsule holds up to 25 people, and the ride lasts about 30 minutes. It's one of Britain's most photographed landmarks, and for good reason. St. Paul's Cathedral is one of London's grandest cathedrals, with its dome rising above the city as a dome of faith and inspiration. Designed by Christopher Wren after the Great Fire of 1666, it has come to symbolize the city's rebirth. Its dome is the second largest in the world, and you can hear whispers beneath it thanks to its unique acoustics. Inside, marble, gold, carvings, and stained glass windows create an atmosphere of sacred celebration. The cathedral has hosted Churchill's funeral, a post-World War II service, and the wedding of Prince Charles and Diana. The Whispering Gallery, the Golden Gallery, and the Crypt are three levels that reveal the grandeur of the structure. The outer gallery offers one of the best views of London. St. Paul's is architecture that speaks to eternity. The Palace of Westminster is the heart of British democracy, home to the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Its neo-Gothic spires and facade over the Thames have become recognizable symbols of Great Britain. Big Ben is not a tower, but a bell inside it. But it is the ringing of Big Ben that has become the voice of London. Every hour it sounds strictly according to the schedule, reminding of order and stability. The palace is decorated with sculptures, coats of arms, and tapestries reflecting the glory of the empire. Inside, debates, votes, and historical speeches are held. It is open for tours where you can see how the British parliamentary system works. It is the place where the fate of the country is decided and at the same time an architectural masterpiece. The Globe Theatre is a reconstruction of the legendary stage where William Shakespeare himself created. Built in 1997 near the original site, it recreates the atmosphere of a 16th century theater. The audience stands near the stage, as in the old days, and the wooden galleries in the open air give the performances a special liveliness. Shakespeare's plays are staged here in classical and modern readings with respect for tradition. There are no microphones or spotlights inside, just actors, words, and the energy of the hall. Tours and masterclasses allow you to feel part of the troupe. The theater is built of oak, straw, and clay, according to the technology of the era. It is not just a cultural object, but a living embodiment of literary memory. Bibury in the Cotswolds is a village cut out of the pages of a children's book. Stone cottages with steep roofs, flowering gardens, and winding streets create the atmosphere of Old England. The most famous street is Arlington Row, once the homes of weavers and now a protected architectural monument. This is where movies were made, postcards were drawn, and tourists dreamed of. The stream gurgles through the village, reflecting the stone walls and sky. At the local bakery, you can try traditional clover buns. Birds sing amidst complete tranquility, and in the evenings, the streets are illuminated by the golden light of lanterns. Bibury is not just a place, but an oasis of time where you want to stay longer. It is one of the most beautiful villages in England, and possibly the world. The Natural History Museum is a temple of science disguised as a Gothic cathedral. Its building is an architectural marvel in itself, with a facade of multicolored terracotta and arches decorated with animal sculptures. Inside, one is greeted by a giant skeleton of a diplodocus or blue whale hanging from the ceiling. Halls are dedicated to dinosaurs, minerals, earthquakes, volcanoes, and the human body. The exhibits are interactive. You can touch, twist, listen, and even participate in simulations. At night, the museum sometimes hosts themed parties and sleepovers for kids. You can spend a whole day here and still want to come back. It's a place where science comes alive, with awe, scale, and wonder. The Lake District is a picturesque symphony of lakes, mountains, and verdant valleys that inspired the Romantic poets. William Wordsworth called these places the heart of England, and he was right. The waters of the lakes, especially Windermere, Derwentwater, and Buttermere, are as calm as a mirror reflecting the clouds. Surrounding them are low but picturesque mountains, fells covered in heather. Here you can walk for hours on trails, climbing to viewpoints and waterfalls. Villages like Grassmere and Ambleside retain an old-fashioned atmosphere, with tea salons and bookshops. In summer, the valleys are filled with the smell of herbs and the tinkling of sheep bells. The Lake District is not just a nature park, but a landscape filled with silence, inspiration, and love of the land. The White Cliffs of Dover greet all who approach the south coast of England like a silent guardian of the island. These chalk cliffs, up to 110 meters high, shine dazzling white against the blue sea. For centuries, they have served as a symbol of national resilience and beauty. During the Second World War, it was to them that the British looked with hope. Walking trails stretch along the cliff tops, offering views of the English Channel and even France in clear weather. Seabirds nest between the ledges, providing a lively, noisy contrast to the tranquility of the cliffs. At the bottom of the cliffs, a wave sweeps up, slowly but persistently. Their poetic, almost epic image has entered the music, literature, and soul of England. The Peak District was England's first national park, and it's still one of our favorites. Its hills are covered in moss and heather, cliffs overhang the valleys, and stone walls snake through the pastures. Two landscapes meet here: the harsh north, dark Peak, with its peat bogs, and the gentler south, White Peak, with its limestone gorges. Villages like Castleton and Edam are where real life takes place: fairs, pubs with fireplaces, sheep behind fences. Caves and underground rivers add to the mystique and stretch underfoot like secret roots of the landscape. Hiking trails such as Pennine Way and Monsell Trail take you through some of the most dramatic vistas. In the spring, wild daffodils and violets bloom here. It's a place where wildlife and human history intertwine in every curve of the trail. The Jurassic Coast stretches along the south of England for 150 kilometers, like an open book of geological history. Here, every cliff, every rock can hold the trace of prehistoric life. Beaches and cliffs in the areas of Lyme Regis and Charmouth are literally dotted with fossils of ammonites, belemnites, and even dinosaurs. Many finds have been made by ordinary school children and tourists with a magnifying glass in hand. Durdle Door Arch is a natural sculpture that has become an icon of the coast. The white and reddish rock layers show millions of years of evolution like pages. A walk along the Jurassic Coast is not just tourism, but a touch of the prehistoric breath of the earth. Here you can feel how tectonic time is intertwined with the present. Cornwall is England's southwest gem with turquoise water, golden dunes, and waves like those borrowed from California. Beaches like Fistral, St. Ives, or Porthcawerin beckon not only swimmers, but also surfers from all over Europe. The coastline is riddled with coves, where caves and rock pools open up at low tide. Small fishing villages with white houses give the landscape a special coziness. The wind here is salty, fresh, with the smell of seaweed and fish. At sunset, the sea flashes pink and gold, the perfect backdrop for a barefoot walk. In summer, there are festivals, markets, and open-air concerts. Cornwall is a sea that speaks English, but with a slight Celtic accent. Cheddar Rock is one of the most impressive natural canyons in the UK, surrounded by walls up to 150 meters high. This place is not only amazing for its views, but also for its archaeological findings. Britain's oldest skeleton, the Cheddar Man, over 9,000 years old, was found here. Caves within the cliff take you deep into the earth, with underground rivers, stalactites, and bizarre stone forms. Tourists can explore Gough's Cave and St. Paul's Cave, filled with a play of light and sound. The cliff tops give a panoramic view of rural England. The famous cheddar cheese, named after the village, is also produced here. The road winding between the cliffs is especially picturesque in the fall, when the slopes are tinted gold and red. Cheddar Rock is a dialogue between earth and time, poignant and timeless. The Seven Sisters are a chain of 7 chalk cliffs that drop steeply into the English Channel like a frozen wave. These cliffs are as white and smooth as a taut sail in the wind, yet appear as fragile as a creation made of sugar. They are in East Sussex and have become an integral part of the English visual code. The views of the sea from the top are stunning, especially on clear, windy days. The walking routes along the cliff tops are full of drama and secluded beauty. This place is often featured in movies and TV series when pure, symbolic England needs to be shown. The cliffs slowly crumble into the sea, a reminder of the fragility of beauty. The Seven Sisters is not just a landscape, it is almost a ballet of rock, water, and wind. The Pennines are a chain of low but rugged mountains that run north-south through the heart of England. They are often called the backbone of the country, and for good reason. They divide the eastern and western landscapes like a spine. The hills are covered in heather, peat, stone fences, and grazing sheep. Rivers, blowing winds, and ancient legends begin here. The most famous trail, the Pennine Way, is over 400 kilometers long and passes through wild valleys, moorland, and abandoned villages. The Pennines are a place of solitude, strength, and natural austerity. There is a sense of tenacity in their stones, freedom in their air. This is the real England, not touristy, but born of centuries. The New Forest is the green heart of the south of England, founded as far back as William the Conqueror as a royal hunting forest. Today it survives as a unique landscape of oaks, beeches, heather fields, and moorland. Wild ponies, deer, foxes, and many birds walk freely here. The trees here are centuries old, some older than the American Constitution. Shepherds' huts, hidden lakes, and misty trails can be found in the woods, where it's easy to believe in elves. The small villages inside the park are like something out of a fairy tale, with thatched roofs and quiet pubs. New Forest is the perfect place for a slow, sensual journey. You can't hear the city here, just leaves, footsteps, and the breath of the forest. The South Downs is an undulating green landscape spreading across the south of England, from Winchester to the cliffs of Seven Sisters. Its gentle, rolling hills are covered in meadows, where sheep graze and wild poppies bloom. The South Downs Way, a 160-kilometer walking route, takes you through some of the most scenic areas. Along the way, you'll find old villages with stone churches, tea houses, and gardens. The views across the channel from the hills are truly inspiring, especially at sunset. In summer, the slopes are golden with wheat, and in spring, bright green with fresh grass. It's a place of quiet, simplicity, and perfect pastoral. The South Downs is like a poem written by nature. Alnwick Castle is one of the largest fortresses in the north of England, standing here since the 11th century. Its massive towers, courtyards, and stone passageways became recognizable after filming scenes of Hogwarts School and Harry Potter. Tourists can try broomstick flying on the same lawns where Hermione and Ron studied. The castle is still owned by the Dukes of Northumberland and remains partially residential. The inner chambers are decorated with paintings, tapestries, and antique furniture, creating the atmosphere of a living palace. There are manicured gardens all around, including the Poison Garden, a garden of poisonous plants. The castle is open to the public and includes night shows, workshops, and guided tours. Alnwick is a combination of history, magic, and theatrical fairy tale. Warwick Castle stands on the banks of the River Avon and was built in 1068 by William the Conqueror. It is one of the best preserved medieval fortresses in England. Inside the castle, theatrical scenes unfold with knights, princesses, and even catapults. In the halls, you can see wax figures recreating scenes of medieval life, feasts, audiences, battles. One of the towers, the Gaia Tower, is open to the public and offers spectacular views of the surrounding area. The grounds are decorated with gardens, labyrinths, and live peacocks. The castle is active with children. There are school quests, festivals, and night tours. Warwick is history brought to life, where you can not only watch but also participate. Leeds Castle has been called the Jewel of Kent and the most beautiful castle in the world. It stands on two islands surrounded by calm waters, reflecting the stone walls, towers, and bridges. The castle's history dates back to the 9th century, and its present form was shaped during the medieval and Tudor periods. 6 queens have lived here, including Catherine of Aragon, Henry VII's first wife. Inside are luxurious chambers with tapestries, paintings, fireplaces, and views of the lake. Outside is a park, a labyrinth, peacocks, and a winery, creating a sense of royal retreat. In summer, there are jousting tournaments, concerts, and wine festivals. Leeds Castle is a true English fairy tale with bridges, roses, and legends. Bamberg Castle rises on a volcanic cliff above the North Sea, creating one of the most spectacular spectacles on the English coast. It has defended England's northern border since Anglo-Saxon times and has been of strategic importance for centuries. In bad weather, the waves crash against the foot of the fortress, emphasizing its dramatic power. There are stunning views of the beaches and dunes and the island of Lindisfarne. The interiors of the castle hold collections of weapons, paintings, and historical artifacts. The castle regularly hosts historical reenactments and exhibitions. It is often featured in movies and TV series for its cinematic scale. Bamberg is a place where the power of nature and history merge into one monument. Arnwick Gardens is a magical place created next to Alnwick Castle, where every corner is filled with beauty and mystery. Here you can walk through the fragrant rose garden, water cascades and glass domes where exotic plants grow. A special place is the Poison Garden, a fenced-in area containing the most poisonous plants on the planet. Entry is by guide only. Signs warn, don't touch, don't smell, don't eat. The garden was created by the Duchess of Northumberland, inspired by the idea of botany with a dark side. In the center of the park is an unusual wooden house restaurant that resembles the dwelling of a fairy tale witch. Not only botanists, but also artists, writers, and children come here to be inspired. Arnwick is a living spectacle of nature, which is both fascinating and frightening. Carisbrooke stands on a green hill on the Isle of Wight and has been an important strategic point for centuries. King Charles III was imprisoned here before his execution. He tried to escape but could not get through the window bars. The castle is surrounded by walls, towers, and a moat where peacocks now walk. The main attraction is the donkeys, which still turn the well to raise water, just as they did hundreds of years ago. The courtyard hosts summer festivals, medieval fairs, and theater performances. The museum displays armor, letters, coins, and everyday objects. From the top of the tower, there is a panorama of the island and the English Channel. Carisbrooke is a quiet corner of living history where the past knocks at every wicket. Bodiam looks as if a child drew it. Square perimeter, round towers at the corners, a drawbridge and a moat with water. The castle was built in the 14th century as a defensive fortress and status symbol. It is still surrounded by a mirrored moat in which the towers, sky, and birds are reflected. Inside, the staircases, loopholes, stone stairwells in the spirit of the real chivalric era have been preserved. The road to the castle goes through the village in an avenue of trees, like a prologue to a movie about the Middle Ages. It is especially beautiful here in spring, when the moat is covered with lilies and sunlight shines through the walls. Often the castle becomes a place for reenactments and jousting tournaments. Bodiam is fantasy romance embodied in the English landscape. Corfe Castle stands on a hill in Dorset and looks like a picturesque wound in the ground, a ruin left over from the Civil War. It was once an impregnable fortress defended by a female commandant, Lady Mary Banks. Today, what remains of it are leaning towers, stone walls, and a spirit of lost grandeur. In the mist, it appears as a ship in a sea of green hills, and in the sunset rays as a monument to fortitude. Tourists climb up the steep path to take a glimpse of the surrounding countryside and imagine how shouts and horns were heard here. The castle often inspires artists, poets, and photographers. Down at the foot is a cozy village with pubs and tea rooms. Corfe is a ruin that speaks louder than entire walls. Tintagel Castle overhangs the sea cliffs of Cornwall, where the waves crash against the cliffs with epic force. Legend has it that this is where King Arthur was born, making it an almost sacred place for fans of Arthurian tales. The ruins are connected by a modern bridge overhanging the gorge, an impressive 21st century architectural detail. Inside the castle, you can find ancient walls, arches, and pathways leading to Merlin's cave by the shore. The hill offers dizzying views of the ocean and rocky shores. Through the sounds of wind and seagulls, you can hear the echoes of legends here. The place is shrouded in mist, mysticism, and green moss. Tintagel is in England where sword and magic go side by side. Durham Castle rises on a cliff above the River Wire, like a shadow of the cathedral standing nearby. It was built in the 11th century and is now used as a college for Durham University. Students literally live in the medieval fortress. The castle and cathedral together form a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The interior halls, tapestries, fireplace rooms, and chapels have retained the atmosphere of royal residences. Its courtyard is guarded by a massive wall that offers a panorama of the ancient city. Guided tours with tales of ghosts, sieges, and university legends take place here. This place combines the light of science and the shadow of the past. Durham is a castle where learning and history live in the same tower. The Forth Bridge is a triumph of Victorian engineering, spanning the Firth of Forth estuary like a giant iron dragon. Built in 1890, it was the first major railway bridge made of steel, over 54,000 tons of metal. Its design is based on the principle of cantilever trusses and resembles a checkerboard pattern of giant arches. To this day, the bridge is still used for train traffic, connecting Edinburgh with the northern part of Scotland. Innovative methods were used in its construction, including floating platforms and rivets installed by hand by thousands of workers. The bridge is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its silhouette often appears on stamps, posters, and coins as a symbol of Britain's technical genius. The Forth Bridge is an engineering poem frozen above the water. Clafton Bridge sprawls over the picturesque gorge of the River Avon, connecting the two banks of the Bristol River in a gentle but powerful curve. It was designed by the great engineer Isambard Brunel and completed after his death in 1864. The bridge is more than 200 meters long and seems light despite its powerful chain construction. It hangs 75 meters above the river, offering a breathtaking view of the city and the green slopes. It is not only a transportation crossing, but also an architectural icon, often appearing on postcards and in movies. In the evening, it is illuminated, creating an atmosphere of coziness and technical grandeur at the same time. There are races, festivals, and even lantern launches during the holidays. The Clafton Bridge is a union of engineering rigor and poetic lightness. Eden Project in Cornwall is the world's largest greenhouse complex turned into a futuristic botanical garden. Its domes, resembling soap bubbles or alien bee honeycombs, shelter the ecosystems of the tropics and the Mediterranean. Inside grow palm trees, vines, cacti, banana trees, coffee, and bamboo, all in conditions created artificially. The complex was built in a former quarry and is an example of ecological restoration and architectural genius. Each dome is constructed of hexagonal plastic panels that let in light but retain heat. Visitors walk on bridges, listen to the sounds of the jungle, and participate in scientific and cultural activities. Eden is not only a garden, but an educational center that inspires care for the planet. It is a place where nature and science embrace under a transparent sky. Tower Bridge is one of London's most recognizable symbols, with its Gothic towers and rising central section. It was opened in 1894 and has since become an integral part of the city's skyline. The towers are connected by pedestrian galleries offering views of the Thames and the city. The lifting spans are still manually unfurled, a spectacle that draws crowds of tourists. The architecture of the bridge combines Victorian decorativeness with industrial functionality. Inside the towers is a museum that tells the history of the bridge and the engineering marvels of its time. At night, the bridge is illuminated in a variety of colors, from royal blue to scarlet during the holidays. It's not just a bridge, it's a living icon of London, bridging coasts and eras. Angel of the North is a giant steel sculpture standing on a hill near the town of Gateshead, as if guarding the north of England. Its spreading wings reach 54 meters wide, more than a Boeing 757. Created by sculptor Anthony Gormley in 1998, she has become a symbol of the renewal of the industrial region. Resembling an angel, an airplane, and a machine at the same time, it evokes contradictory feelings, from awe to wonder. Over 90 tons of steel are firmly embedded in the ground, withstanding winds and storms. Millions of people see it every year as they drive along the A1 highway. Over the years, the sculpture has rusted to a noble rusty orange hue, becoming even more expressive. Angel is an art that cannot be overlooked, forgotten, or interpreted. Salisbury Cathedral rises above the green meadows like an arrow pointing to the sky. Its spire reaches 123 meters, remaining the tallest in the country. Built in just 38 years in the 13th century, it is considered a marvel of early English Gothic architecture. Inside, there are arches, columns, stained glass windows, and a chapel with amazing acoustics. The sacristy contains one of the 4 surviving copies of the Great Charter of Liberties. On the territory of the cathedral, there is the world's oldest working clock mechanism, created in 1386. A walk around the cathedral is a journey into the space of light, stone, and time. On clear days, the spire can be seen from miles away, and its reflection in the pond at the entrance is like a sign of vertical perfection. Salisbury is a cathedral that speaks through height and harmony. Blenheim is not just a palace, but a true monument to victory, presented to the Duke of Marlborough after the Battle of Blenheim. Winston Churchill was born in this magnificent Baroque complex with its gilded halls, grand staircases, and huge library. The architecture of the palace is austere and majestic, with columns, statues, and an intricate layout. All around stretch gardens, ponds, and bridges designed by the great landscape designer, Capability Brown. Churchill's personal belongings are displayed inside, including letters, uniforms, and photographs. Parts of the palace are still used by the Duke's family. It is a place where English history is inscribed in every stone and flower bed. Blenheim is a symbol of triumph, heritage, and an enduring taste for greatness. The Millennium Bridge connecting St. Paul's Cathedral to the Tate Modern Gallery is not just a crossing, but an artistic axis of London. Opened in 2000, it was first made famous as a wobbly bridge due to structural vibrations, which have since been addressed. Its design, flat, silver, stretched over the Thames, creates a sense of lightness and flight. At night it is illuminated, reflecting in the water like a string of light between past and future. It has become a popular spot for pedestrians, photographers, and street musicians. Thousands of tourists walk across it, heading from the majestic dome to avant-garde paintings. The bridge has been used in movies and videos, emphasizing its modern aesthetic. The Millennium is a bridge of ideas, attitudes, and styles. The cathedral in Lincoln in the 13th century surpassed the Pyramid of Cheops in height, becoming the tallest structure on the planet. 160 meters with a wooden spire. Built on a hill, it still dominates the city and can be seen for tens of kilometers. Its facade is decorated with hundreds of figures of saints, monsters, and angels. Inside, there are Gothic arches, stained glass windows, and the famous curved tower. It is here that one of the versions of the Great Charter of Liberties is kept, and in the crypt are the relics of the saints. The cathedral has been involved in scientific discoveries, and it was in its tower that Newton measured the speed of sound. Legend has it that the cathedral hides a statue of the Lincoln Imp, a devil turned to stone. Lincoln Cathedral is a fusion of Gothic, myth, and the heights of human faith. St. Pancras is more than a train station. It is a cathedral symphony of brick, steel, and glass. Built in the 19th century, it is striking with its Gothic facade, spires, and towers, as if the castle had moved to the center of London. Inside is the Eurostar, a high-speed train to Paris and Brussels, making the station the gateway to Europe. The arched steel spans over the platforms are an engineering marvel of the Victorian era. The meeting room is decorated with a sculpture of the couple in love and a huge clock as symbols of the romance of travel. The station is filled with boutiques, restaurants, libraries, and even concerts. History is not just preserved here. It continues, pulsing through the rails. St. Pancras is a temple of movement, elegance, and engineering dreams. The Victoria and Albert Museum is an ode to human creativity in all its exquisite forms. Founded in 1852, it has become a repository of the world's treasures, from Renaissance sculptures to haute couture dresses. Here you can see authentic royal attire, theatrical costumes, tapestries, jewelry, and furniture. The Fashion Gallery tells the story of style through the ages, from 18th century corsets to Alexander McQueen dresses. In the Islamic art department, there are ceramics, carpets, and calligraphy that amaze with their fine workmanship. The museum space is an architectural work in itself, with arches, courtyards, and cafeterias among the statues. Exhibitions are regularly updated, from Raphael to contemporary graphic design. It's a place where beauty, intelligence, and luxury meet in every showcase. Madame Tussauds is a chance to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Queen, Beyoncé, and Shakespeare without leaving the same room. All the figures are rendered with remarkable accuracy, from wrinkles to skin texture. Visitors can have their photo taken with David Beckham, Obama, or Spider-Man in an almost movie-like production. The wax exhibits are divided into themed rooms, movie stars, politicians, musicians, Marvel heroes, and even the royal family. A special pride is the Hall of Fear, with figures of historical criminals and scenes of executions. In the interactive zones, you can voice a movie, participate in a show, or go through a virtual walk through London. Madame Tussauds herself, an 18th century French sculptor, began her collection with busts of victims of the French Revolution. Today, her legacy lives on in the light of cameras and flashes. Abbey Road is not just a crosswalk, but one of the most recognizable stretches of road on the planet. The Beatles' iconic 1969 album cover was made here, showing the band members walking across the crossing in the famous sequence. Fans from all over the world come here to replicate the pose of John, Paul, George, and Ringo. There is always a crowd around, some taking pictures, others waiting for a car to stop to take a picture. Nearby is the Abbey Road Studios complex, where not only the Beatles, but also Pink Floyd, Radiohead, and many others wrote. The studio is decorated with a commemorative plaque, and the walls near the entrance are scribbled with messages from fans. Even motorists in the area themselves understand the sacredness of the place and often stop politely. Abbey Road is a place where music has become a landscape. The Electric Cinema opened in 1910 and is considered the oldest operating movie theater in the country. Its interior is a celebration of retro luxury, velvet armchairs, carved cornices, Art Deco lamps, and even leather sofas in the front rows. Not only blockbusters are shown here, but also classic films, independent movies, and documentaries. There's a full bar and even waiters bringing drinks right to your seat. Every visit here is like an evening in a vintage club with a 1920s atmosphere. The Electric has become part of Notting Hill's movie culture, attracting directors and stars. Special movie screenings with discussions and lectures are often held inside. It's not just a movie, it's a ritual with the smell of popcorn and the clinking of glasses. Camden is an explosion of flavors, styles, and music encased in a tangle of streets and shops. You can find everything from vintage clothing, piercings, vinyl records, punk suits, and Indian saris. Street food ranges from Thai noodles to Caribbean kebabs and vegan burgers. The market is decorated eccentrically, with giant sculptures, graffiti, and signs that are impossible to forget. The canal that runs through the market offers boat rides or picnics by the water. Camden has always been home to informals, from the punks of the 70s to the hipsters of the 2020s. Amy Winehouse was born here, and her image still adorns the walls of the neighborhood. Camden is freedom in its purest form, the pulse of the city that never stops. The British Museum is one of the world's great museums where you can take a trip around the world without leaving London. Its collection spans more than 2 million years of human history. It houses the Rosetta Stone, the key to deciphering Egyptian hieroglyphics. In the halls stand Parthenon marbles, bronze sculptures from the Kingdom of Benin, mummies, Assyrian bas-reliefs, and Roman mosaics. The central courtyard with its domed roof is a true architectural marvel, flooded with light and space. Admission to the museum is free, making it a true gift to the community. It is not only a museum, but also a scientific center, a library, a place for lectures and debates. Here, history resounds in every window and makes you rethink the way you look at the world. Greenwich Park is one of London's oldest royal parks, dating back to the 15th century. From the top of the hill near the Royal Observatory, it offers one of the most spectacular views of the city, including Canary Wharf and the Thames. The Zero Meridian, the line from which the longitude of the entire planet begins, runs through the park. It is also home to the Museum of Time and Clocks, where you can see historic chronometers and astronomical instruments. At the foot of the hill stands the ship Cutty Sark, a famous tea clipper of the 19th century, fully restored and open to the public. Daffodils and sakura bloom in the park in spring, and bees buzz in the gardens in summer. It's the perfect place to picnic, go for a run, or contemplate history. Greenwich is the point where London looks at the sky and the map at the same time. The Shambles in York is a narrow cobbled street with facades jutting out towards each other like a fairy tale illustration. Its history dates back to the 14th century, when meat was traded here and butchers washed their stalls directly into the drains in the middle of the street. Today, the butcher stores are replaced by gift stores, cafes, witches' shops, and bookstores. The facades lurch inward, and you can almost reach your hand to the building across the street. This is the street that inspired the image of Diagon Alley in Harry Potter. At night, it is especially magical here. Shadows, silence, old lanterns, and atmospheric echoes of history. York carefully protects Shambles as a national treasure. It's not just a street, it's a portal to the Middle Ages, living and breathing. Tate Modern is a former power station on the banks of the Thames, transformed into one of the most influential contemporary art museums in the world. The giant turbine hall is the heart of the museum, where building-scale installations are on display. Works by Picasso, Warhol, Rothko, Hirst, and many others can be seen here. Programs are constantly updated to include performances, lectures, and multimedia projects. The architecture of the building emphasizes industrialism. Brick, concrete, steel, and glass provide a sharp, honest contrast to the exhibitions. The top floor offers panoramic views of London, from St. Paul's Cathedral to the Thames Bridges. Inside, there's a cafe, bookshop, and seating areas where art is woven into everyday life. Tate Modern is a space where thinking takes shape. The National Gallery in London is a temple of European painting from the 15th to the early 20th century. It houses masterpieces by Leonardo, Raphael, Van Eyck, Van Gogh, Vermeer, Turner, and many others. Each hall is like a room with a priceless collection of beauty and pain, light and color. Artists, students, tourists, and philosophers gather in front of the entrance in Trafalgar Square. Admission is free, making the gallery a true art school for all. Inside there is silence, soft light, and the feeling that you are in dialogue with eternity. The museum actively conducts lectures, master classes, and educational programs. The National Gallery is not just a collection of paintings, it is the heart of Europe's cultural memory. England is like a book where every page is alive and moving. Here, ancient streets talk to skyscrapers. Wax figures come to life in the glitter of flashes, and castles continue their eternal watch over meadows and seas. You can walk in the footsteps of poets, kings, scholars, and rebels, and feel like it wasn't all that long ago. These places are not just beautiful, they are full of meaning, the spirit of the time, and something that stays in the memory for a long time. If this route resonated with you, if you want more stories, mysteries, locations, and surprises, subscribe to the channel. Here we travel not just by map, but by meaning, beauty, and inspiration. There are more wonders ahead.